So here's a question for you. What speed do you listen to my videos at? Heck, what speed do you listen to podcasts, WhatsApp voice notes, any YouTube video at? And if you listen faster, is there a loss? That's what we're gonna find out today. Stick around. Hey, welcome to Lead Loud. My name is Richard Mulholland. I'm the founder and chief evangelist of presentation powerhouse Missing Link. Now, one question that I find myself asking a lot, because I watch a lot of keynote talks, TED Talks, things like that at 1.5 speed, and I find myself thinking, am I missing something? Like, am I missing nuance in their delivery and things like that? Or for me, is it all about efficiency? And what I want to explore today is listening at 2x speed a feature or a bug? Is there a loss or is it all gain? Now, I want to thank Dani from Missing Link for the inspiration for this video for two reasons. One, because she requested it, and two, because if there's anybody you need to fast forward to 2x speed, it's Dani, because her voice notes on WhatsApp are at least 2 to 3 minutes. We all have a Dani in our lives. Anyway, to research this, I wanted to kind of get a sense of how widespread this is. So I put a post out on LinkedIn and I asked everybody, hey, well, how fast do you listen to podcasts, Netflix, YouTube, things like this? And you guys came back and you gave me some cool data. Let's just bring it up a little bit for you to see here. The first thing was entertainment, Netflix, movies. The vast majority of people just watch them at 1 speed. Some people did mention that they like to do documentaries a little bit faster, about 1.25, just because in documentaries speak a little bit slower. Then there was entertainment, or the average speed that most people listen to podcasts at was 1.25 to 1.5, and some people, outliers, tended to be at 1.75 to 2. There was also that small little group of people in the green there, and what they tended to do is they would listen for a little bit, then hit skim, and they would skip ahead. If they got a bit bored, they would skip ahead and until they found bits they were interested in. Now, there was kind of different prevailing wisdoms that kind of came up in the comments about how people processed it, and I want to just touch on a few of them. The first was by John Bradshaw. He said for audiobooks, the first chapter he listens at 1x, just to get a feel for the author, then as fast as feels comfortably. Normally 1.3 to 1.5. So he kind of ramps up as he's going until he finds that comfortable speed. And then occasionally he'll go all the way to 2x for slow speakers. He finds the first chapter at a single speed very useful to get the spirit of the book, and then only he goes up. And I thought that was very interesting, that he would start off, listen to something to get the sense of the book, get an understanding in his brain for how the narrator delivers, and then speeding it up. So you kind of apply the new sped up thinking to the original audio. And I think there's definitely something there. Now, my old business coach, Will Fusser, he had a different approach. For him, it's about duration. He says, when a podcast is longer than 10 minutes, I go to 1.5 speed. I hate the long chit chat that some presenters do on podcasts before starting to get to the point. I like this. I think this is an interesting hypothesis. The idea that, well, let's just wait and see. If it's short, then you've already done the function of brevity. So you've made sure you're cutting to the chase, you're getting through it, and I'm happy to listen at native speed. The last person I want to draw on is, and I think it's a fellow speaker. His name's Chris. He's amazing, and so he understands what it's like to be heard, but he kind of represented, I think, the broad group of you. And he said, I don't have a blanket consistent answer. It depends on a lot of different things for me. If it's more important, I'll listen slower. The speed of the presenter matters as well. So he speeds up some slow talkers and some slow point makers quite a bit to 2x. Recreational listens are rarely sped up. I just enjoy the journey. And that was consistent to a lot of you guys. So what I wanted to work out though is there a gain? Is there a loss? What are we doing? Is it right to have these different systems? Or if we're going to listen to some things at 1.5, should we just listen to them all? Because heck, you all know what it feels like when you've been listening to something from 1.5 and you slow down. It's like being at the airport and you're walking along those travelators, and then as you walk off, it feels like you may as well be like walking through mud. So the question I started the video with was this, very, very simply, is listening at 2x a feature or a bug? Well, it turns out there's science around this. Researchers did a study. They got 231 students and they brought them in and they asked them to watch 2 videos, one on the Roman Empire and one on real estate. And they asked them to watch them at 1.5, 2x and 2.5 speed. And then what they did is as they left, they did a kind of cognition test to see what they remembered from the videos. And then a week later, they asked them again. They did another cognition test to see what they had retained. And it turns out there was no loss from a regular speed, 1 speed, to 1.5, 2x speed. In fact, the only place where there was a loss was at 2.5 speed. The students started to lose some of the information that they'd taken in. Why is this? Well, it turns out the inner voice, the way we speak to ourselves as humans, the average human speaks internally in your own head at around 400 words per minute. Now, this is consistent with the kind of upper limits of how fast people read. They kind of read like 200 to 400 words per minute as well. However, that's different to how we speak, because the average person narrates or speaks at 150 words per minute. So this tells you we speak to others slower than we speak to ourselves. So we're already used to having conversations at that kind of speed. We don't speak to ourselves like this.
We speak to ourselves like this, in our own head, much faster than you would listen to it. If you're listening to this at 2x right now, you're hearing this at 4x, and it sounds crazy, but you're still taking it in.
So, what does that mean? What a lot of people were saying is that they love the idea that they can listen to more and more and more. And this is an idea I'd slightly like to go to war with. I did a TED talk called A Catastrophe of Inaction. And in this talk, I talk about the fact that we're so big on trying to get in as much information as we can that we're not actually doing anything with it. And this isn't just about us remembering it, it's also about us actioning it. Like in my mind, if you have time to listen to something for, at 2x speed, then you actually have time to pause and just take more meaningful notes. Instead of just listening, you've now saved 50% of the time. If you listen to a 1 hour podcast in 30 minutes, that gives you 30 minutes extra that you've kind of invested in this to say, okay, let me actually spend 30 minutes or 20 minutes, 10 minutes even to sit and make notes and to take those notes and turn them into actions. What can I do differently as a result of this? And there's something to this as well, by the way. It's not just about cramming in more information. In fact, if we go back to that original test that I mentioned, that study, it turns out that some of the students at 1.5 and 2x actually increased their memory if they listened to it a second time, not immediately, but a week later, right before they did the second assessment. So if they listen to it at 2x speed, spend 30 minutes to listen to an hour of content, and then they listen to that another 30 minutes right before the time, so the same amount of original investment, they had more information retained. And this is due to a phenomena called spaced repetition. And spaced repetition is very, very interesting. Basically, if you look at the bar at the bottom here, that's what you lose. If you listen to something once, within 4 weeks, you've lost most of it. But if you listen to something once and a week later, you retain slightly more. If a week later again, you listen to more, you retain more. And if you listen to it, 4 times over 4 weeks, you retain the most. This is called spaced repetition, and it's basically how we're geared to remember things. So actually, if you are listening to some content, if you've got an hour to go through something, actually, probably the best way to do that, if it's something you want to retain or do for work or do something with, you actually listen at 2x, wait a week until right before the meeting and listen again at 2x. That way you've got way more cognition, way more chance of bringing that back to the forefront of your memory. Now, before I go, I want to share with you one tool that I use to do this. A lot of video players have this natively built in, but I actually like to control it universally from my browser. So I use Video Speed Controller, which is a Chrome extension. I plug that in, and in the top corner of every video, there's a small little speed toggle that I can choose to speed up the video to any way I want. And I can also set defaults. So I could say play every video by default when it begins at 1.5 speed. It's a really, really handy tool. I hope you enjoy it. The links will be in the comments on YouTube down below. So that's it for me. Now you know you have guilt-free listening at 1.5 or 2x. There is no loss. However, if you are putting too much in your brain, if you're processing more and more and more and more, you will lose because your brain can only hold certain amounts of information at a time. That's it. I hope you retain some of this. I hope you give it a bash. If you've not been trying speeding up your videos yet, maybe now is the time. Let me know down in the comments if you agree, if you disagree, if you're going to try it, if you're not. I'd love to hear back from you. Until next time, lead loud.